Hi, I'm Karen. Welcome to my channel. Today, I want to tell you about my practices for using my decks. To me, my decks are not a collection, they're spiritual tools. And I'm not a collector, I'm a reader. So I make an intentional effort to use what I have, and I'm going to tell you how I do that. Let's get started. The first practices I want to talk about are what I call my calendar practices, my daily, nightly, monthly, yearly practices. For my daily practice, I pull a card every morning from Angel Wisdom Tarot by Bradley Valentine. I adore this deck. This is my angel deck. I work with angel energy as a significant part of my spiritual practice. This is the only angel deck I have, the only angel deck I want, and you can see that it's starting to chip because I use it every single day. The cards have an angel associated with them. This one's Ariel, and then it follows the RWS system, and it has a nice message here, and then the guidebook goes into more detail about the angel and the message. And I just use it every morning. Gives me off to a great start with my angels. Then for my nightly practice, I have a deck that I've used for quite a while. And that's Dreamgate Oracle by Danielle Noel. I've had this deck for a couple of years now, and I pull a card every night from it, and it is wonderful for that. I can just sink into these images, do some path working, and they're wonderful for drifting off to sleep. Then I have a newer deck that I've been trying to incorporate into my nighttime practice. This is the Mother Mary Oracle by Alana Fairchild. This is the pocket size, so instead of a guidebook, it has the messages on the back, and that's what I wanted. I wanted a smaller deck and just the messages on the back for my nighttime pulls. And it's working really well for that in a lot of ways. I struggled at first because I just have trouble connecting to this artwork, and I don't have a connection to Mother Mary, so that was a bit of a struggle for me to read the message and try to figure out who I thought was communicating with me. But I worked my way through that. It's just a beautiful spiritual message from the universe to me, the feminine energy of the universe to me. And in that way, I'm working with it, and it's beautiful. And it does seem like all of the messages I receive at night are relevant to how my day went, something I'm working through. So it has become a part of my nighttime practice now that I got through those initial struggles with it. I don't pull from both every night. I usually pull from one or the other, but sometimes I pull from both. And I like having both of them available for my nighttime pulls. Then for my monthly practice, I have the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck by Chris Kranz, and I pull a card at the beginning of each month for that. This month, August, I've got the Threshold. Last month, I had the Fault Line, and both times have been just so perfect. The Fault Line is about cracking open. I feel like spiritually that carried a lot of significance for me. And then the Threshold is stepping into a new realm after cracking open. So I feel like they went together beautifully. It was very, very relevant to me. So this is my monthly card from that deck. Then I also do my shop my decks for each month, and that has become a great way to use decks. I try to find decks that I realize I haven't been giving enough attention lately and pull those in. or decks maybe that I have used recently, but there's an aspect that I feel like has been neglected. It depends, and I try to make those somewhat seasonal. Then for my yearly practice, for the second year in a row, I've used this deck. This is the Shaman's Dream Oracle by Colette Baron-Reid and Alberto Villoldo. This is one of the two decks I used for all of 2023. This one in Sacred Destiny Oracle. But I realized I had not used this deck at all in 2024. So in 2025, when I decided to start this yearly practice, I felt like this would be a really good deck for it, for one thing, and it worked so beautifully for me. Every card, I pull one for each month and then a yearly card. My yearly card for 2026 is Caterpillar. Opportunity is the keyword. And then my card for the month of August is Galactic Mushroom, and the Divine Matrix is the keyword. So I have been reflecting on both of these. These stay out all month, well, all year for this one and all month for this one. And then this one also stays out all month. I have card holders for both of these so that each day I can at least notice them, and on good days when I have some time, I can really reflect on these. That's my yearly practice. Then kind of along the same lines as calendar, I've got holiday. I only have one Christmas time deck, and that is my favorite holiday. This is my Yuletide Tarot by Christopher Hughes. And I just talked about this not long ago, so I'm not going to show a whole lot of these cards, but I love this deck. It's got that Yule energy. It's got a lot of Christmas energy. It's just perfect for Yule time and Christmas. And that's the only deck I want for Christmas. I don't want a bunch of holiday decks because they won't get used. And I want to make sure that I use this for the entire month of December. Then for spooky season, which I'm not going to say Halloween because this is going to be another one of those things that'll probably be the entire month of October to make sure I get plenty of use out of them. The first one is a new deck to me. This is Diary of Skeleton. I edged it to match the red here on the back, and I think this is my favorite edging so far. I love it. And these cards are so stinking cute. I just had to get them when I saw them. They're going to be perfect for October. I can't wait to use them. I love them so much already. So those will get a lot of use then. And then this other deck is not really a spooky season deck, but it is to me. I use it other times too because I just love scary movies. And this is the Horror Tarot by Todd Alcott. But I feel like I'm going to use it even more in October because that's when I really start watching scary movies, and that's always been a part of Halloween season, spooky season. October for me is watching scary movies. And when I say scary movies, I don't mean like more recent kind of scary movies. I mean old scary movies like the ones that are in this deck. That's why I love this deck so much. I don't like a lot of the direction that scary movies went after, I guess it was the late 70s, early 80s. I mean, there's been some good ones since then, but there's been some really stupid, over the top, just more violence than scary. And I like a good scary movie. And this reminds me of those. So I'm going to be using this in spooky season along with my Diary of Skeleton. Then another practice I have for using my decks is I keep study decks. I originally bought the Universal Weight as a study deck, but it turned out to be more than that for me. It turned out to be a regular reader. This deck reads so well for me. I love it. I never thought I would love the RWS original artwork. And I still don't really love the artwork, but I do love this deck. It was recolored with color pencil, and it really softened and brightened and clarified the deck. The colors aren't as harsh, but I feel like they're so much clearer, and there's a brightness along with the softness that just is wonderful. Then I also got a deck just for the keywords. I was reading a book, Unlocking the Tarot, and I wanted to get a deck that was RWS based, but with different artwork. And this is just that. It is an RWS clone. You can see I've written my keywords all over it. I don't use this for any other purpose. This is the Awakened Tarot. And I bought this one specifically for that purpose as a study deck. And I've used it only for that purpose. I don't use it for anything else. I think it's, yeah, it's in order. And that's why. Let's put it back in order, because if I put it in the box and it's all messed up, next time I go to look for one of my keywords, I'm gonna be frustrated with myself for not doing that there. But it's just your traditional RWS images with modernized people and modernized clothing and modernized buildings, all of that kind of stuff. But it's still the original RWS images. So this is a study deck for just the keywords for me. I know not everyone uses keywords, but it is important to me, I feel, because as a newer reader, sometimes if I can remember my keyword for a card, I can go from there and use my intuition for the rest of the reading. So that's why I have this, in case I start to forget some of the keywords, which happens. Then I also have another one I didn't pull out that is an RWS that I bought specifically for, oh yeah, I did pull it out, never mind, here it is. This is the original tarot by DeBry, and I may be rehoming this deck because I bought this one specifically for an RWS 3-month deep dive study that we did. And it's, I don't need it. I don't need it because I have the Universal Weight. The only reason I got a different deck for that study was we were specifically studying the symbolism and the coloration. And the colors have been changed and some of the symbols have been softened in the Universal Weight. And I wanted something that had all the authentic look of the RWS for that specific study, but I don't feel the need to use this deck otherwise. So I may be rehoming this one. I don't rehome very often. I'm usually very intentional with what I bring in. But I kind of knew when I bought this one that it may not be staying. We'll see. Other decks that I have, I did not pull out that I use for study. I have my astrology deck, my Heavenly Bodies Oracle. I'm still debating about the tarot. I'm trying to really not spend money on decks right now. I'm trying to tighten up the belt, and I'm on a no-buy until my birthday in September, mid-September. And even then, I'm going to be very cautious because, like anyone else, financial ups and downs in life. So I'm trying to minimize my spending right now. We'll see. I may get that deck because I do want something that I can tie in more with astrology. Heavenly Bodies Oracle is nice, but I feel like I would do better if I had a tarot to use it with. I'm really interested in the tarot and astrology connection, and I am studying that. I have a book called Tarot and Astrology that I love. So we'll see if I get that deck or not. But for now, I've got Heavenly Bodies Oracle. Then, of course, I have my beloved Crystal Keys Tarot that I talk about all the time for my crystal studies. And then I have a deck that I don't even know if I've mentioned or not, Cerulean Sequence by James R. Eads. And I use it for numerology, but it has other uses, and I haven't really sat down and spent the time to figure it out. So I consider it a study deck, but I need to spend more time with it. The next category is healing and growth. Decks that I use for healing that I need to do and for growth that I want to do. For my self-worth, I have Unicorn's Journey Tarot. That's what this deck is all about. This is also the deck I just did a deck study on. But it is written by Elizabeth Hess. She also has a book called The Self-Worth Path, and she talks about, this is a story of Mystic the Unicorn, and it's a story of self-discovery, self-belief, and self-love. So this is my self-worth deck. It's soft, it's encouraging, it's a storybook deck. It has a beautiful story that runs all the way through the deck about Mystic and his journey to finding himself, to finding that he is a unicorn. He did not know that at first. And it's a beautiful story. It follows the RWS, but it has this beautiful story woven all the way through it. And it is so soft and gentle and encouraging, even on the hard cards. It almost makes you cry sometimes on the really hard cards, because it's just, I've gotten so attached to this little unicorn. But it's a beautiful deck for self-worth. Then my introspection deck is this one. This is Into the Lonely Woods by Lucy Cavendish with artwork by Dan May. I adore this deck. This deck is my heart. I go into what I call my serenity room. It's where I do my readings and keep my decks. It's where I do my talking head sections, my intros now, at the beginning of my videos. But in that room, I'll go in there and I'll pull a card from this deck and spend some time reflecting on it. And this deck makes me cry a lot, but in a good way, in one of those cleansing ways. I hate to cry, but sometimes it does help. This deck is so sweet and gentle and loving and kind, and it just touches a part of me that needs some healing. So that is Into the Lonely Woods. And then for shadow work, and I don't even really know what that means, but for my interpretation of shadow work, this is a newer deck to me. This is Blood Moon Tarot by Sam Gway. This deck makes me go into some of those darker recesses of my mind sometimes. This is such a deep deck, and I love it. It's beautiful. It's a great reader, but it does go into the shadows sometimes. Blood Moon Tarot by Sam Gway. Then the next category I have is work decks. This first one is one that I used all the time when I was working a full-time job outside my home. This is Affirmators Tarot by Susie Barrett. And this is my first actual tarot deck that I ever bought. It's so fun. Has great little messages. I just talked about this one not long ago. And I hadn't really used it since I stopped working my full-time job. So I'm trying to get back into using it again for affirmations for the work I'm doing from home, the work I'm doing here at home. I'm not making any money on this work, but I still consider it my work. And I think this deck would be fun to start pulling from again for an affirmation each day for the work I'm doing. My other work deck that I am currently using is for my creative work, my writing, my journaling, and this is Sacred Creators Oracle. And I love to pull a card from this and reflect on it if I don't have an idea already for what I want to write about that day. This a lot of times will inspire me. And if it doesn't, that's okay. I'll just reflect on it and realize that's probably not a day that I'm going to be writing. I don't try to force my writing. It usually comes to me. I don't even need a prompt from this deck, but sometimes I want one anyway, Unstick the Stuck. It's just a really fun deck for that, for creating, for creative energy, for getting you flowing some days when you want to do whatever your creative outlet is and it's just not really coming to you. Sometimes something like this will give me a prompt and get me going if I don't already have one. So that's Sacred Creators Oracle, and this is by Chris Ann. Then the last category I want to talk about for my practices is my Ancestor and Past Life decks. The first Ancestry deck that I work with is Witch Sisters Tarot by Julia Jeffrey. And the reason this is an Ancestors deck for me is I have a lot of Scottish ancestry as well as English, Irish, no Welsh. The rest is Nordic, German, and Native American. But because I do have quite a bit of Scottish ancestry, and this is based on Scottish witches, it feels like an ancestry deck to me. These people look like they could have been family members of mine, ancestors of mine. And I've gotten some readings from this deck that felt very ancestral when that was not what I was intending from the reading. It kind of told me that it was an ancestral deck for me. Then the other one I use is an Oracle deck. And that one is one of my decks for this month, actually. This is Angels and Ancestors by Kyle Gray. And this one I use for ancestral and past life work. I love this card, and this card never comes up for me, so I'm really happy that it showed up. I feel like maybe she's encouraging me to talk about this, something I don't usually talk about. But I do use this one for some ancestry work because I do have some Native American heritage and some other heritage that goes back into some of the cards in here. And the ones that aren't from my ancestry, I still feel a pull toward them. And then for past life work, which is something totally separate for me from ancestry work. And that's the reason I feel like this one works for me for that, because it's not just tied to ancestry for me. It's tied to the past, whether it's ancestry or past lives. It just feels very tied to the past. Okay, that's it. That's all the different practices that I have into place. I've already talked about my Shop My Decks that I do every month for anything that doesn't fall into a category and that I feel like may not be getting used. I'm pretty happy right now. I'm pretty happy with the practices I use to make sure no deck gets left behind. I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye for now.